articles as it relates to Black finance, wealth, and business for today, October 29th, 2020. Let's go ahead and get started. All right. So the first article for today comes from the Washington Post, and it's a bit of good news. The article's title states U.S. Black owned firms make surprise comeback to pre COVID level. So it's talking about Black entrepreneurship. The article starts off by saying, Black owned businesses dealt a crippling blow in the first months of the COVID-19 crisis, have rebounded to their pre pandemic numbers, according to research based on US Census Bureau data. The turnaround is a sharp contrast to April, when a 41% plunge in the number of active African American business owners heaped more challenges on a community already facing outsized health problems. As of last month, and this is the interesting stat. So, as of last month, the number of Black business owners had climbed to or back to about 1.1 million nationwide, a 2% increase from February. The expert of the article is a man by the name of Robert Fairley. He's an economics professor at the University of California, Santa Cruz. But he cautioned that the census numbers fluctuate from month to month. So it's possible Black owners didn't see an absolute increase over pre pandemic levels. Also, the data don't address whether the owners are actually making money or not, he said. Let's see. Later on in the article, it talks about the movement to support Black owned businesses that sprung up during nationwide protests over police brutality may have been a contributing factor, according to Fairley, but it's still not really known what all of the factors were or are that's actually causing the rebound. Fairley has a quote that states, the rebound might be due to a concerted effort by customers to buy from Black owned businesses. I'm not sure if this explains everything, but it certainly helped. All right. Yeah, and this was interesting in terms of a contrast. The numbers or the number of white business owners was down 1% in September, and immigrants and Asians are still seeing sharp declines, with their rank still down 13% and 17% respectively, compared with February as well. So shout out to the Black-owned businesses doing their thing, who went through the COVID crisis and are now recovering. So it's always great to see a bit of good news in the world. The next article today comes from the Washington Post once again. And the next two articles actually are talking about banks and credit unions. But this article is entitled Bank Programs Seek to Widen the Path to Black Home Ownership. So the article starts out with a story about Delmar Freeman, who was shopping for a home last year. He's a firefighter from DC, but he had been watching home prices soaring, and he didn't think that he would have been able to have enough or save enough for the down payment. Having enough for a down payment is one of the biggest obstacles for home buyers, but it's particularly challenging for many minority buyers, housing advocates say. So when he applied for a mortgage through Chase Bank, the 34-year-old discovered he also qualified for the Chase Homebuyer Grant, one of the bank's affordable home programs aimed at buyers who purchase a home in low to moderate income communities, as defined through census data. The program is one of several that banks have rolled out in an effort to bolster home buying opportunities for African Americans, a group whose home ownership levels consistently lag behind other minority groups and white people. Housing advocates are viewing the programs as efforts to repair the damage banks caused over the years, including the subprime mortgage lending in the early 2000s, risky high interest mortgages to Americans with scuffed or limited credit that contributed to the Great Recession and the low Black home ownership rate. The grant is a $2,500 grant along with a mortgage rate of 3.25% through Fannie Mae. And this helped make home ownership a reality for Freeman and his family. Freeman has a quote in here. He states, The homebuyer grant was just one of those little things that really had a big impact on being able to buy the home. Between getting the grant and having the lower mortgage rate, it really made the difference. And here's another. This is I guess a more general thing in regards to the initiative from J.P. Morgan Chase's perspective and their broader mission in terms of fighting inequity in the banking system. JP Morgan Chase recently pledged $30 billion dollars to help close America's racial wealth gap, with the bulk of that commitment tied to housing. Some 8 billion dollars will go towards funding 40,000 mortgages to Black and Latino home buyers and 4 billion dollars in refinancings aimed at helping another 20,000 Black and Latino customers lower their mortgage rates. Jamie Dimon, who is the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, he states, systemic racism is a tragic part of America's history. We can do more and do better to break down systems that have propagated racism and widespread economic inequality, especially for Black and Latinx people. Shout out to JP Morgan Chase as well for these programs and the other banks who are actually making these strides for African Americans to have a higher percentage of home ownership rates. But everything in terms of the equity of a home, happens when you buy. So if you want to learn more about that, head over to the Black Business School in terms of how to buy right the first time around. I'm thinking about multifamily, real estate and other types of real estate that will more than likely appreciate in value over time. But congratulations and thanks to J.P. Morgan Chase as well. All right. So the next article today comes from, AmericanBanker.com. Unfortunately, they have a paywall up here, so I have to read this article through my Feedly account. But the article states, what credit unions can learn from Wells Fargo's Black talent scandal. Basically, I'll start here with the highlighted quote in yellow. The financial services industry has long recognized the importance of diversity when recruiting and retaining employees, managers, and directors, but many institutions have struggled to turn these intentions into concrete results. There are roughly just 170 Black credit union CEOs out of nearly 5,200 institutions. So, of course, those are very dismal numbers, and I would suspect that many of those CEOs are running institutions that are much smaller than their counterparts as well. So the highest priorities in the new director recruitment. This is an interesting graph that they have here. So demographic diversity and the ability to focus on the future were the highest priority in the new director recruitment of these different credit unions, according to a 2020 report by Quantum Governance. Earlier this year, back to the article, Wells Fargo CEO Charles Scharf said in a memo that the mega bank struggles to meet diversity goals because of a lack of qualified minority applicants. Reuters reported in September. The bank has tied executive compensation to meeting goals around diversity and has promised to double the number of Black managers in 5 years. There was an interesting stat in here. Ellsworth Etchison said that this summer, a member of the $837 million LAFCU reached out to him wanting to know how many Black people serve on the institution's management team. They're getting a lot more of these types of questions from their top customers in regards to where these customers are going to eventually direct funding. And credit unions seem to be putting a greater emphasis on diversifying their employees and board members than ever before. For instance, demographic diversity, including age, gender, and race, was the top priority for director recruitment, as I stated above. There's some interesting quotes in here from Michael Dinault. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce his name. He's the CEO of Quantum Governments. Awareness alone is not enough. We need to find a way to systematically reach out and help recruit and develop and identify talent that is out there. Victor Miguel Coro, he's the CEO of Coopera. He states people have a tendency to gravitate towards those that look like them. We all have unconscious bias, he stated. We need to be aware of that and embrace diversity and those who have different backgrounds than ourselves. More than half of the directors said diversity and inclusion data should be a factor in deciding pay for top executives, according to the study from corporate board member and compensation advisory partners as well. So this article is very interesting to me because it goes to the systemic piece of racism and inequity in this country. And this shows that many credit unions, this is on their radar. So we'll eventually see if it moves from just being on their radar, as the author mentioned, to actually tackling some of these issues as well. The last two articles have to do more with entrepreneurship. This article is from Black Enterprise. And the title states TikTok is teaming up with Shopify to support Black businesses through the hashtag challenge. So this week, social media network TikTok announced that it will be teaming up with Shopify to create a new partnership to help promote Black-owned businesses. Hashtag Shop Black is a part of the social media network's hashtag challenge to help amplify Black-owned small businesses and entrepreneurs to the users. Brands will be able to also share their own stories on their TikTok page and participate in the challenge starting November 10th until November 15th. Blake Chanley, he's the VP of Global Business Solutions at TikTok. He states, we are delighted to partner with Shopify and provide a global channel for their merchants to reach new audiences and drive sales on TikTok. As social commerce proliferates, retailers are recognizing that TikTok's creative and highly engaged community sets it apart from other platforms. We're constantly exploring new and innovative ways to connect brands with our users, and Shopify is the perfect partner to help us grow and expand our commerce capabilities globally. So I didn't see how to participate in the challenge, but maybe it has a link in the actual company blog, which is actually linked in this Black Enterprise article as well. The last article today comes from Vox Media. So it is entitled, "This Entrepreneur is Competing with DoorDash by Delivering Only from Black-Owned Restaurants." And I believe these two brothers were featured in the Entrepreneur video by Pharrell and Jay-Z. But David Cabello, his business was barely a year old when the pandemic struck. He's the founder of Black and Mobile, the self-proclaimed first Black-owned food delivery service in the country to exclusively deliver for Black-owned restaurants. And I believe he is based in Detroit, Michigan. So it's been a double-edged sword for Cabello, the article mentions. On one hand, the pandemic brought a level of disruption that made it difficult for any small business to survive, let alone expand, as Cabello was in the process of doing when COVID-19 brought many industries to a halt. But on the flip side of that, these difficulties have also brought Black and Mobile its share of good fortune. Alongside widespread calls for criminal justice reform, people began encouraging others to support Black-owned businesses to help Black communities achieve economic justice. Even amid competition from much larger delivery services like DoorDash and Uber Eats, Cabello's business soared. In June, Black and Mobile more than quadrupled its average weekly sales. So that's amazing, and congratulations to that brother. Now Cabello is charting a path forward. Despite economic instability in many regions, he's continuing Black and Mobile's expansion in Atlanta and Detroit, and he remains hopeful that the generous support of his business has received will continue in better times as well. The article then goes on to have a more in-depth interview with Cabello, and you can read more of the interview down here. But as always, we'll do our best to get David onto the Financial Juneteenth channel so that you can hear his story a little bit more. So that's about it. Those are our five, or my five most interesting articles as it relates to Black finance, wealth, and business for today, October 29th, 2020. Before you get out of here, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Financial Juneteenth channel if you would like to receive more content like the content that I produce with the Financial Juneteenth 5. Also, let me know what you think about the segment in general. We're still trying this out for a few more weeks, and if you all like it, we'll continue. If not, we'll definitely move in another direction to find the content that you actually do like. But on behalf of Financial Juneteenth, my name is Lawrence Watkins. You all take care, be blessed, and have a wonderful day. All right, bye-bye. Today's video is brought to you by the Black Business School. At the Black Business School, we don't help you just climb the corporate ladder, we help you build your own as well. We provide a culturally relevant yet practical education in all things wealth building at an affordable price. So no matter if you want additional freedom in your day-to-day life, you would like to leave a legacy of generational wealth behind to your family and friends, or you just want additional security and stability going into your golden years of retirement, the Black Business School has courses and offerings for you. So head over to theblackbusinessschool.com to learn more. Take care and see you in class soon. Bye-bye. Hi, everyone. This is Lawrence Watkins, and welcome to the Financial Juneteenth 5. These are my 5 favorite articles as it relates to Black finance, wealth, and business for today, October 28th, 2020. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first article today comes from the New York Times, and it states, PayPal invests in racial equality. The company is putting $50 million in Black and Latino-led venture capital firms. So PayPal will invest more than $50 million in 8 Black and Latino-led venture capital firms. Chingona Ventures, Fearless Fund, Harlem Capital, Precursor, Slauson & Company, Vamos Ventures, Zeal Capital Partners, and one fund yet to be named. It follows millions in grants that PayPal has given to Black-owned businesses affected by the pandemic or protests, and Optimus Bank, a Black-focused lender as well. There's a quote in here from Dan Schulman, who is PayPal CEO. It states, "So little venture money goes into minority communities. This is a way to think about how we start to create, or how we start to create wealth creation." PayPal is hoping that other businesses will follow their lead and invest more in Black-owned VCs and directly into Black-owned businesses. As many companies agonize over wading into politics and social movements, Mr. Schulman said that he believed companies have a moral obligation to act. Values that are just on a wall are just propaganda and are worse than having no values at all, he said. I don't think that we can stand aside and hope that the problems of our society are just addressed by governments and nonprofits. So shout out to PayPal for making this specific investment, and hopefully the Black and Latino-led VC firms that you invested in will do a great job of choosing the right companies to actually invest. This actually leads me to my next article. And my next article comes directly from the Wharton School of Business. So maybe like 5 or 6 days ago, they had a panel discussion with 2 individuals. The title of the article is "Building a Bigger Tent: How VCs Can Support Black Founders." And this was a discussion with Erica James, who is a Black woman who is now the dean of the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania, which is widely considered one of the 3 to 5 best business schools in the country. With Chris, what's Chris' last name? Chris Bennett, and also another partner, a white man by the name of Joshua Kopelman, who is a partner of First Round Capital. And Chris Bennett is a Black entrepreneur as well. So with the spotlight shining brightly this year on social justice and racial inequity, Black entrepreneurs are having a moment. But will that moment last long enough to transform the venture capital industry, which currently invests in startups with Black founders at a rate of less than 1%? Josh Kopelman, who, as I mentioned before, is a Wharton grad and also a partner at First Round Capital, which is a well-known seed stage venture fund. He says in the interview, I think when it comes to racial equity, the venture industry has been a laggard and not a leader. These issues are important and they should be acknowledged and discussed, and VCs shouldn't hide from the conversation. As systemic racism has come into the spotlight, venture firms have all realized they need to do more. Chris Bennett, who is, like I said, is an entrepreneur. He runs a company called Wonder School, which is a company that helps licensed educators and child care providers launch in-home preschools and daycares as well. Wonder School has raised a total of $24 million in just 2 years following its launch in 2016. And let's see. So the article gives a little bit of background into Chris Bennett's story. So he started out selling textbooks, reselling textbooks while he was a student at Wharton. And then he went to work at a private equity firm in Chicago before he started his first company in Silicon Valley called Soldsea, which was like an e-commerce platform built upon Facebook. In 2011, he started a nonprofit called Black Founders to network with others like him because of the experience of being a Black founder was so singular. In this interview, Chris is quoted by saying, I remember it being sort of a radical idea. Why are you self-segregating? Now I think it would be widely accepted, which is sort of exciting. The thinking in the community is starting to change, and that's largely because of what's happening across the nation. The interview at Wharton between these three individuals also brought up the challenge of bias and privilege. Bias is a big part of why it's so hard for Black entrepreneurs to get in front of investors. James pointed to research that has shown people are more likely to seek out others who look and sound like themselves and who come from similar backgrounds. For investors who are overwhelmingly white men, there is a level of discomfort with the familiar and a perceived risk of the unknown. So they went deeper into that particular conversation. But to end the interview, I wanted to share a quote by Kopelman in terms of his prescriptive way in terms of hiring and building the team. Kopelman's prescriptive of making the hire, sending the wire, and building a bigger tent is totally spot on. It's a really simple, or excuse me, he then states, it's really simple. Invest in people of color, hire more people of color, invest in the careers of people of color, he said. That has a really long-lasting effect, and I think will play a big role in changing the narrative that exists in the tech community today. So if you are in the VC space, in the tech space, and want to know what two leaders are thinking about the particular industry right now, highly recommend that you checking out this hour-long interview between the three of them. I think that you would get a lot out of it. The next article today comes from The Root. And it states, the title states, Built to Last, American Express and Elaine I actually don't know how to say her name, Welteroth, launch a vodcast to celebrate Black-owned small businesses. By the next time we do FJT 5, I will know how to pronounce this young lady's name. So a new video podcast series by American Express aims to do exactly that. Built to Last, hosted by New York Times bestselling author, journalist, producer, and former editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue, Elaine Welteroth. The series, which launched Tuesday, aims to dive into the stories, history, and continued legacy of small businesses that shape American culture. As American Express tells us, it's an extension of its longstanding commitment to backing small and minority-owned businesses. The podcast features in-depth interviews with Black-owned small business owners who are thriving despite the challenges they face. Each episode honors the trailblazing Black entrepreneurs that paved the way for the business leaders of today. These conversations uncover and celebrate the stories, past and present, of Black entrepreneurship in America. and seek to inspire listeners to support Black-owned small businesses in their communities. Let's see. The premiere episode features Pinky Cole, CEO and founder of Atlanta's Slutty Vegan, the wildly successful plant-based burger chain, which opened its third brick-and-mortar location last weekend in the Edgewood area of the city, a remarkable feat amid a pandemic that has proven devastating to both Black-owned businesses and the restaurant industry alike. So I think there's one last quote that I wanted to share in here. Yes, so new episodes will be available approximately weekly beginning October 27th, which was yesterday, through December 8th, each featuring more in-depth interviews with Black-owned small business owners, including Issa Rae, Hannah Diop of Sienna Naturals, Coriana and Brianna Dotson of Coco and Breezy, and many, many additional companies. So check out it on, I believe it's in Spotify. It's also on iTunes, and the American Express YouTube channel has these interviews listed. So please make sure you check it out. And the link to the article is in the description as well. The fourth article is really an interview, and this is a site that I've never heard of. I believe it's a United Kingdom based site. But the title of the article is "The Zine Talks to a Vibe Called Tech About Racism and Technology." I just like that name, so I thought this would be an interesting article to share, an interview to share. But the article states, "Exposing and tackling racism in technology is the goal of UK initiative, A Vibe Called Tech." The zine spoke to co-founder Charlene Primpa about the responsibility companies have in protecting the Black community on and offline. Launched in 2018, A Vibe Called Tech explores the impact that technology has on Black people in the UK. Primpa's work spans across the various forms that technology takes, from social media platforms to artificial intelligence and biometric devices. She has some, interesting quotes. She seems like someone who is very straightforward in terms of her thoughts and what she believes. Primpa told Dezine, "The ways in which tech is used as a tool of oppression are numerous. We often talk about it like it's new, but technology's been coming for Black people since the beginning. Even when you look back to the start of photography in certain lights or with a flash on, you couldn't get a Black face. There has always been this sense that Black people aren't being considered when technology is developed, and that has just persisted." All right, there's a quote in here. A 2018 MIT study, for instance, found that commercial gender recognition systems misclassify darker skinned females at rates of up to 34%, while error rates among lighter skinned males are around 0.8%. So this article and this interview really gets into systemic racism, even as it relates to technology and how technology is developed. Since most technology is developed by white men who have these jobs working in these corporations, there seems to be an inherent bias in terms of what computers and what the AI systems and algorithms can pick up and what they can't pick up as well. But yeah, I highly recommend that you check out this article in the zine. I'll make sure to check out more from this publication moving forward as well. All right. So the last article today comes from the Denver Post. It states, "Denver's first Black-owned gun club opens as more African Americans buy firearms amid pandemic and racial tension." So the 1770 Armory and Gun Club is Colorado's first Black-owned gun club, and it opened its doors last week as Black people increasingly are arming themselves amid a pandemic and racial division within the United States. So I believe the club was started by an Aurora church pastor. Her name is Wanda James, and she's the gun club's co-owner. "Given the place in which we are in America, politically, racially, African Americans don't feel safe anymore," Wanda stated. It's a sad scenario when people don't feel comfortable in their homes, walking down the street, or in their cars. I found this next stat to be very interesting. In the first 6 months of 2020, A record 10.3 million firearm transactions were processed by the U.S. retailers, according to a report from the National Shooting Sports Foundation. Among those sales, the highest overall increase in purchases were among Black men and women, who bought 58.2% more guns in the first half of 2020 when compared with the same period in 2019. Overall, Black men made up 9.3% of all firearm sales, while Black women accounted for 5.4% during the period. Still, though, Black people are less likely to own guns than white people. In 2017, about a quarter of Black Americans owned firearms, while 36% of white people own firearms, according to a Pew Research study. The article then talks quite a bit about this idea of protecting the family. The owners chose 5 points. That's a neighborhood in Denver. The owners chose 5 points so the new gun range would be affordable and accessible to people in Denver. And while the neighborhood is undergoing considerable change through new development, lead instructor Master Young said, "I want people to know that in the community, or in the middle of this reconstruction, there are still Black-owned businesses in the community." The owners chose the name 1770 after the year of the American Revolution started, and the year Crispus Attucks, a Black man who is widely considered the first American to die in the Revolution, was killed. So shout out to this gun range. Yeah, and well, the article then talks about how or why Black men in particular have been not really buying firearms in the past because of association with street gangs, and also fears of run-ins with the police as well. So shout out to the 1770 gun range for the work that they're doing. We love to see Black-owned businesses in all facets and all spaces as well. So that's it. Those are my 5 favorite articles as it relates to Black finance, wealth, and business for today, October 28th, 2020. Let me know your thoughts about these articles in the comments. Also, let me know what you think about the FJT 5 segment in general. Is this something that you would like for us to continue on? We have about 2 or 3 more weeks of doing this test run. If you all like it, we'll continue. If not, we'll go in a different direction. Before you get out of here, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Financial Juneteenth channel. On behalf of Financial Juneteenth, my name is Lawrence Watkins. Take care, be blessed, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Today's video is brought to you by the Black Business School. At the Black Business School, we don't help you just climb the corporate ladder, we help you build your own as well. We provide a culturally relevant yet practical education in all things wealth building at an affordable price. So no matter if you want additional freedom in your day-to-day life, you would like to leave a legacy of generational wealth behind to your family and friends, or you just want additional security and stability going into your golden years of retirement, the Black Business School has courses and offerings for you. So head over to theblackbusinessschool.com to learn more. Take care and see you in class soon. Bye-bye. Hi, everyone. This is Lawrence Watkins, and welcome to the Financial Juneteenth 5. These are my 5 favorite articles as it relates to Black finance, wealth, and business for today, October 30th, 2020. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so our lead story today comes from a site called BizNow, biznow.com. It looks to be a site mainly about real estate development for those who are in the real estate industry, but it's talking about opportunity zones. The title reads, "Big changes could happen to opportunity zones post-election, but more will be needed to address disinvestment." So the article starts off by saying, whether Donald Trump or Joe Biden wins the presidential election next week, commercial real estate can expect the Opportunity Zone program will remain intact but receive some tweaks, experts say. That will likely include some reforms and new reporting requirements no matter what, but which man holds the office could determine if the program grows or shrinks in scope. And they were talking about the first with the Democrats winning, and there's a good chance they could win all 3 houses or all 3 pieces of the House of Representatives, the Senate, and also, of course, the presidency. And if that happens, that could kick off monumentous changes in tax policy, including a big boost to the taxes on capital gains. But instead of fulfilling its stated goal in terms of opportunity zones with helping blighted areas, critics charge that the Opportunity Zone program attracts investment to already affluent areas, sometimes even funding luxury residences and hotels. And that's a big problem because the main purpose of the Opportunity Zone program was to increase investment into areas that have historically lacked investment. But what we see is that often this can be a fuel for gentrification and basically kicking out the poor residents and using these tax incentives that opportunity zones provide to really give more money to the rich and be a tax haven in the United States for the rich as well. Develop CEO Steve Glickman, so he's deep into the opportunity zone space. And he also helped to craft some of the legislation for opportunity zones. He says that the Biden campaign views opportunity zones as one of the pillars of their economic strategy, especially as it relates to racial equity. There's also, I believe this is Glickman once again giving some of the recommendations, or maybe this is Biden. Excuse me. I think this is Biden's team. In addition to pushing for higher capital gains taxes, the Biden campaign advocates rolling back tax breaks for real estate investors, such as 1031 exchanges, which allow the deferral of capital gains taxes if proceeds from an investment sale are plowed back into another property. So in the Black Business School, we talk a lot about 1031 exchanges. So if you're an investor, that is not such good news for you. But I'm looking forward to just learning a little bit more, to seeing what their strategy and philosophy is behind that type of rollback. U.S. Senator Ron Wyden, the top Democrat on the Senate Committee of Finance, also proposed legislation that would add reporting requirements, strip the OZ designation from affluent census tracts, and prohibit investments in luxury rental properties and similar assets. One last recommendation that keeps coming up over and over again as it relates to opportunity zones. U.S. senators and representatives from both parties want Opportunity Zone funds to start collecting and reporting data on how many jobs OZ investments create in low-income communities, and for the U.S. Treasury to provide granular data on the program's other real-life impacts as well. So this is an excellent article, really talking about opportunity zones. I'm going to give you one last stat that I found to be highly interesting in terms of how much money is going into the opportunity zones. But the rest of the article, please feel free to read on biznow.com. But that stat is the original estimate was that 100 billion would flow into the zones over 10 years. But after less than 2 years, investors had already committed $75 billion, according to an August progress report by the White House Council of Economic Advisors. So this is a story to really look into. We have different opportunity zones experts that have come through the Financial Juneteenth channel and the Black Financial channel, and we look forward to having more in the near future as well. The next article comes from a student newspaper. The University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill has a paper called The Daily Tar Heel, and this article comes from thedailytarheel.com. You make your own spaces. Black creatives talk about imposter syndrome. And I thought this was an interesting article because no matter if you are a college student or older, deep into your career, many times Black individuals feel this pressure and feel like they are imposters in a, I guess, white-owned type of world. And this article addresses, some of those issues, with individuals, in the 20 to 22-year-old age range. Black creatives at UNC navigate being vulnerable in self-expression and self-realization, as many are susceptible to imposter syndrome, especially when they already feel that they don't have a seat at the table. Imposter syndrome happens when an individual minimizes their own achievements and doubts their skills. The first person that they really talked to about this was Papa Berko. He's a senior studying exercise and sports science and music. But he also has, I believe, a couple of albums, one that may have gotten a little bit of traction locally in North Carolina. But Burko says, the one area I doubt myself at times is really the support. Starting out as a new artist is hard because people really want to focus their energy on mainstream people. No one really would support someone who is starting out until they blow up or get on that mainstream level. He also goes on to say, I thought I wouldn't be as lucrative or as effective, but after the first year, I was really able to grow in advance. I don't have imposter syndrome because I know I belong. I'm not saying that to be cocky, but out of confidence in my ability that God has blessed me with. They also talked to another student. Her name is Liz Howard. She's a student studying dramatic arts. But for her, I think the story was a little bit different in terms of how she feels about imposter syndrome. She says, imposter syndrome is the worst form of self sabotage. For Howard, her imposter syndrome came from her experiences with tokenism. She said her white counterparts would often say she only received certain roles because she was black. Sometimes you kind of feel like a token, like you're the only one on stage because they wanted diversity. But yeah, so that's interesting because a lot of people I know feel the same way. And as they go deeper and deeper into their careers, you would expect that imposter syndrome would become less, but oftentimes it actually increases. So if you're experiencing imposter syndrome, I would say, that's not the best way to live. I look at everything. I've never really personally asked myself if I belong in a certain place. My philosophy has always been, I'm here now, so what I'm going to do with this opportunity. So if you want to learn more about what students are thinking, please go ahead and read this article in the Daily Tar Heel. The next article that I want to go over, and it's kind of similar, not necessarily imposter syndrome, but being black in white spaces. And this was very surprising of an article. It comes from the Chicago Crusader, which is a black-owned community magazine or newspaper since 1940. So this is in Chicago, Illinois. And the title reads, Nielsen Ratings Black Exec Sues Corporation Charging Discrimination. And the reason this was shocking to me is because last week I covered the Nielsen report on like equity and diversity coming out. I can't remember the exact name. I think it's mentioned in this article right here. And Cheryl Grace, was the person who who authored that. I guess that piece of reporting, and now she's actually suing Nielsen. So Cheryl Grace, the face of the company's annual Black Consumer Report, says Nielsen's public message, "You Matter," falls short inside the company. Cheryl Grace, Nielsen's Senior VP of U.S. Strategic Community Alliances and Consumer Engagement, the founder of the series, has been the company's spokesperson in the company's campaign, or for the company's campaign, particularly the report focused on African American consumers. Nielsen's reliance upon everyday consumers, including multicultural shoppers and viewers, is significant because it is how the company can confidently and successfully sell representative insights to its roster of multi-billion-dollar clients, which includes manufacturers, retailers, broadcasters, and advertisers. But on Wednesday, October 28th, Grace filed a lawsuit in the U.S. District Court, Northern District of Illinois, against Nielsen, charging the 97-year-old global company with discrimination. According to Grace's claim, despite numerous efforts over the years to advance beyond a senior VP role, which he's held for 13 out of 16 years with the company, Nielsen has failed to promote her in spite of her high performance. Instead, the suit alleges her courageous internal conversations and written correspondence about race and career advancements with a number of companies in the C-suite executives, including its CEO, have led to Grace being marginalized and subjected to a hostile work environment. The lawsuit comes less than a week, like I said, after Nielsen released his 10th version of the popular Black Consumer Report, The Power of the Black Community, From Moment to Movement, as well. And this is interesting also because if you just look at corporate America, you see Black executives, even if they make it to the C suite or close to the C suite, they're usually in support type of roles. So that might be, indirectly with like marketing or public relations or events or, in this case, diversity, that type of stuff. But many studies have shown that the most direct path to top level positions, the CEO spot, is if you have run your own profit and loss statement, so P&L. So basically, you were responsible and accountable if a particular business unit made money or not. And Black people, or I guess Black executives, usually aren't given those types of opportunities, which also can hinder their career advancement as well. But there's a quote in here from attorney Janice Mathis, executive director of the National Council of Negro Women. She says Cheryl Grace is a very visible and highly respected Black woman, most widely known in nonprofit and business circles across the nation as the face of Nielsen. She later goes on to say, it raises a troubling and significant issue that the person most responsible for publicizing Nielsen's commitment to inclusion is now herself charging unfair treatment at the hands of the company where she has been employed for 16 years. If Nielsen's biggest cheerleader is not cheering for them anymore, what can the Black community and women's group expect from Nielsen? So that's a excellent question. So from a brand perspective, this isn't a good look for Nielsen, but best luck and wishes to Cheryl Grace as she fights her battle with this particular company. The next article today comes from The Guardian, and The Guardian is a UK-based publication. They have some US-based content, but I believe this is actually in the UK as well, this article. So the title reads, there are more Black female entrepreneurs than ever, so why do they struggle to get funding? And this is a topic we cover relatively often within the Black Business School. It starts off talking about Marian Arifina, Arafina, and she launched, I believe, with her sister, maybe, Anita Igbune. They launched the Rise NGO Fund to give space and visibility to Black-owned businesses, including yam importers. The article started off talking about yam importers and how, if you're Black in the UK, that's a big thing. But if you're not, you probably wouldn't know that that's a really big deal in terms of a growing market. But anyway, back to the article. So space and visibility to Black-owned businesses, suppliers of Black beauty products, and more, which otherwise might not see the light of day. The mainstream, she says, the mainstream won't know we're there if our voices are not in the room. She has another quote in here. She says, we had to be really innovative. The techie bit is something we had to learn in regards to starting her new company. Banks and VCs have been slow to fund Black-owned businesses. They'll ask for proof of concept or might say there's no money in it. So basically there's a lack of diversity in the room, which leads to a lack of missing investment opportunities. I think I was watching a podcast, This Week in Startups, by Jason Calacanis, I believe that's how you say his name. And he was interviewing Arlen Hamilton, who was a Black female VC out of, I believe, Silicon Valley. But she is known for investing in Black-owned businesses and minority businesses around the nation. And she says something similar in terms of, she's getting all the best opportunities because, all the Black entrepreneurs are, I guess, flocking to her and companies like hers for investment, these really great ideas in helping to give them a start and getting much higher ROIs than what other companies in the mainstream are getting because they're all fighting for the same types of companies. And this article is really talking about that at the core. Women of color are among the fastest growing groups of entrepreneurs, research from the US shows. They faced a double whammy of sexism and prejudice, which has prompted them to go at it alone. Annette Joseph, a tech advocate who founded Diverse and Equal, so that's what she mentioned, or no, her quote's coming up next. So her quote is, I meet so many people who have said it, who have had it said to them, you're only here because you're Black. Billions have spent billions have been spent on diversity, but the glass ceiling is still much lower. Career progression isn't transparent, and you just don't get the opportunities. I hear that everywhere. So there's a few more things in the article, but I think this is a good summary. You should read it and see what they're doing in the UK because many of the same inequities and problems and challenges that they're facing over there, we're facing over here in the United States as well. The last article today comes from Forbes, and it's an interview, and it says this Black female-led coalition wants to double the number of women of color in tech. It's talking about DeWanda Franklin, and she is the CEO of Reboot Representation. So Tech Coalition Reboot Representation is working to close the gap for underrepresented women of color in tech with a goal of doubling the number of women from underrepresented groups who receive computing degrees by 2025. There's a quote in here. She says, "I am a Black woman in tech and have had a long journey through struggles and battles to rise in the tech industry. We see this moment as an opportunity to build equity. This is the time for progress to be made. This is an opportunity for women of color who may not have the opportunity to enter into tech spaces otherwise." Through its Black Females Moving Forward in Computing program, in partnership with the United Negro College Fund, Reboot Representation is offering Black women in tech professional development, mentorship, and scholarships. The program is accepting applications until October 30th, which is actually today. So if this is something that you're interested in, please head to their website and apply. But you can check out the full interview below. Just wanted to share this piece of news with you as well. So that's about it. Those are my top 5 most interesting articles for today, October 30th, 2020. Before you get out of here, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to Financial Juneteenth if you would like to receive more stories like the stories that I've been delivering today with the FJT 5 segment. Also, let me know how I'm doing. How do you like the FJT 5? And is this something that you would like for us to continue on producing for the future as well? But on behalf of the Financial Juneteenth channel, my name is Lawrence Watkins. You all take care, be blessed, and have a wonderful day. All right, bye-bye. Today's video is brought to you by the Black Business School. At the Black Business School, we don't help you just climb the corporate ladder, we help you build your own as well. We provide a culturally relevant yet practical education in all things wealth building at an affordable price. So no matter if you want additional freedom in your day-to-day life, you would like to leave a legacy of generational wealth behind to your family and friends, or you just want additional security and stability going into your golden years of retirement, the Black Business School has courses and offerings for you. So head over to theblackbusinessschool.com to learn more. Take care and see you in class soon. Bye-bye. Hi, everyone. This is Lawrence Watkins, and welcome to the Financial Juneteenth 5. These are my 5 favorite articles as it relates to Black finance, wealth, and business for today, November 2nd, 2020. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first article today comes from USA Today, and the title states, "Fair housing groups sue Redfin with allegations of redlining minority communities." Several fair housing organizations accused Redfin of systematic racial discrimination in a lawsuit Thursday, saying the online real estate broker offers fewer services to home buyers and sellers in minority communities, a type of digital redlining that has depressed home values and exacerbated historic injustice in the housing market. In the complaint filed in the U.S. District Court in Seattle, the organization said that that during a 2-year investigation, they documented the effect of Redfin's minimum price policy, which requires homes to be listed for a certain prices to reap the benefits of Redfin's services. The company was vastly less likely to offer realtor services, professional photos, virtual tours, online promotion, or commission rebates for homes listed in overwhelmingly minority neighborhoods than it was in overwhelmingly white ones, the investigation found. Redfin's policies and practices operate as a discriminatory stranglehold on the communities of color, often the very communities that have been battered by a century of residential segregation, systemic racism, and disinvestment, the lawsuit said. Now, in Redfin's defense, CEO Glenn Kelman said that, or insisted that the company had not violated the Federal Housing Act, which clearly supports a business decision to set the customers in areas it serves based on legitimate business reasons such as price. So later on, he talked. He has another quote here. The CEO Kelman. Our long-term commitment is to serve every person seeking a home in every community profitably. The challenge is that we don't know how to sell the lowest priced homes while paying our agents and other staff a living wage with health insurance and other benefits. This is why Redfin agents aren't always in low priced neighborhoods. So basically, the law or Kelman stating it's just not profitable to operate in those areas. So we're not going to lose money by trying to service an area that really doesn't have very much potential for growth for our underlying businesses. The lawsuit also alleged that Redfin sometimes failed to provide services even when a home's price topped the minimum. That was much more common in predominantly minority neighborhoods, including Chicago South Side, the organization said. It gave some stats to support this from many different cities. So Chicago, I see one from Kansas City. I think I saw Louisville, Kentucky here a little earlier as well. Baltimore, Baltimore too. Lisa Rice also chimed in. She's the president and CEO of the National Fair Housing Alliance. So in the article, she states, we have decades and decades and decades of discriminatory practices in the real estate field, she said. Real estate agents are some of the most well-trained professionals in the industry. They know what redlining is. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this lawsuit progresses. It's good to see that there are people supporting African Americans and other ethnic minorities within the court system. And hopefully this lawsuit has a positive result to get Redfin to change its policies. The next article is actually on the opposite side of the political spectrum. So Redfin was there because it wanted to help the African American community and other minority communities as it relates to housing discrimination. This article is from TechCrunch, and it was posted on Friday. Uber Eats faces discrimination allegations over free delivery from Black-owned restaurants. Uber says it has received more than 8,500 demands for arbitration as a result of it ditching delivery fees for some Black-owned restaurants via Uber Eats. Uber Eats said it wanted to make it easier for customers to support Black-owned businesses in the United States and Canada. To qualify, the restaurant must be a small or medium-sized business and therefore not part of a franchise. In contrast, delivery fees are still in place for other restaurants. In one of these claims of the 8,500 viewed by TechCrunch, a customer alleges Uber Eats violates the UNRUC Civil Rights Act by charging discriminatory delivery fees based on race of the business owner. That claim seeks $12,000 in damages. Megan Cashley of Uber, she's the spokesperson for Uber. She has a quote that says, "We're proud to support Black-owned businesses with this initiative. As we know, they've disproportionately been impacted by the health crisis. We heard loud and clear from consumers this was a feature they wanted and will continue to make it a priority." To close out the article, it's worth also noting that the representative for the customer listed in the complaint that I showed above is Consovoy McCarthy, whose partners include President Donald Trump lawyer William Konosovoy. I think that's how you say it, Konosovoy. I don't know. And others as well. So this seems to be an indirect attempt by Trump and the Trump administration to attack anything like this that is helping and supporting Black-owned businesses from corporate America. So let's be on the lookout to see how this lawsuit progresses as well. This article came from TechCrunch, and it was released on Friday. The next article, it really is a press release. It's from American Express. It states American Express announces $1 billion action plan to promote racial, ethnic, and gender equity for colleagues, customers, and communities. So at the beginning, it gives some of the recommendations and things that they're going to be doing. So achieve 100% pay equity for colleagues globally, sets goal to double spending with diverse suppliers and expand access to capital for minority-owned businesses, commits to enhancing diverse representation and equal opportunity at all levels across the company, increases funding and resources allocated to community organizations advancing racial equality and social justice. So the plan includes a series of internal and external initiatives, commitments, and resources supported by $1 billion in investments toward enhancing diverse representation and equal opportunities for its colleagues, customers, and communities. I was going to read this quote from the CEO, but the CEO is, of course, very proud of what they're doing, and they want to have continue their longstanding commitment to fostering an inclusive and welcoming workplace that reflects the diversity of the customers and communities that they serve. There's a similar statement by the VP of the Office of Enterprise Inclusion, Diversity, and Business Engagement as well. But for those wanting to know the tangible things that will be coming out of this initiative, so I mentioned the 100% pay equity. That's a gender thing. And also, I guess, a race thing as well. Enhancing colleague representation, so increasing the number of Black, African Americans, and Latinx people across the company. For the business owners, here's something to really look into. Double spend with diverse suppliers, expand access to capital and financial education, and also evolve its product experiences, marketing, and also services as well. And then they have some philanthropic things that they actually want to do as a part of this initiative also. Great news from American Express. So we thank them for their support, and it's good to see more and more companies putting their money where their collective mouths are and their press releases are as well. The next article comes from the Wall Street Journal, and it states, the headline states, law firm clients demand more Black attorneys. Microsoft, Uber, and US Bancorp are among the companies urging law firms to enlist diverse legal teams. So law firms have spent years promising to hire and promote more Black lawyers. Their corporate clients are now pressuring them to show their results. So companies like Microsoft, Bancorp, US Bancorp, Uber, Intel, and others are asking the law firms they hire to detail how many diverse lawyers they employ and whether those lawyers are assigned to meaningful work. Firms that don't have a good answer might lose out on bonuses or not get hired at all. I didn't highlight this, but I think this is interesting. What gets done gets rewarded, says Shannon Klinger. She's the chief legal officer at Novartis, which is a pharmaceutical company, and they withhold 15% of legal fees if the diversity benchmarks aren't met. Client demand swelled this year, driven by the national debate about race and equity. Lightning struck, said Joel Stern, who leads an association of minority and women-owned law firms. People are calling up saying, show me the Black lawyers, show me the Black firms. About 2%, this is an interesting stat, about 2% of partners at US law firms and less than 5% of attorneys in the lower ranks are Black. Figures that have barely budged for decades, according to the National Association for Law Placement. Also, Black students make up 8% of total enrollment, but they're also more likely to attend lower ranked schools compared to the more prestigious law schools that are out there. Duval Thompson, a partner at Holland and Knight, which is a huge law firm, he says, you'll see the same associate staffed on all great cases and think, why am I not getting these same or those same opportunities? The consistent challenge is attempting to rise through the ranks based on knowledge, experience, and ability, rather than being minimized, diminished, or judged based on the color of our skin. There's one last quote that I wanted to share in here. Let me see. I think that was it. So yeah, there's one last quote from Miss Marsh. So they're talking about Lakeisha Marsh at Ackerman LLP. Many companies don't want to take the risk of hiring people they have never worked with before, Ms. Marsh said, which limits opportunities for up and coming lawyers of color. You won't know what you're comfortable with unless you step out and try something different. Yeah, that's the end of the conversation. Actually, no, there was. We should be the first, not last. Yeah, I think that was the last main quote that I wanted to share in this article. But please read this in the Wall Street Journal. If you work in corporate America, these are some of the things that you can advocate for if you work and you have, I guess, a powerful position at these corporations, because people listen to the dollars, and having these bonuses removed from companies that don't hit certain targets, I think it's a good way to put pressure via corporate America as well. The last article, I'm not going to go that deep into, but it's from sourcingjournal.com. And it's a journal basically for like fabrics and materials and supply chains and products and those types of things. But basically where sourcing actually comes from. Footwear experts weigh in. Can the industry kick its diversity problem? I'm not sure if they're trying to make a pun there or not in terms of kicking its diversity problem. But anyway, the Sourcing Journal, and it's less about what I've been seeing specifically about this article. The article basically says, Black people aren't represented in sourcing at many of these major corporations. Things need to change, and things are actually changing. But I'm seeing this in a lot of this same type of article in a lot of different trade publications that are out there. This concept, industry by industry by industry, of the broader racial reckoning that's going on, that was sparked by the George Floyd murder in Minneapolis by the police officer. So yeah, I found this to be interesting. Across the 100 global brands and companies analyzed by the initiative, the Diversity List initiative that they talk about in this article, just 6 have presidents or CEOs of color, an industry-wide problem that Donaldson characterized in August as systemic. But it talks about just the heavy hitters, how although actually what I've noticed in terms of, they're talking in this article about Nike, Timberland, Foot Locker, and others, many of their companies in terms of board seats, as well as in terms of like employees, they actually align pretty well with how the general makeup of the United States is. The challenge I think this article brings up is, yeah, you might have 13 or 15% Black employees, but your customer base might be 70 or 80%, African American. So you should over-index on some of these things as well. But this is an interesting article if you really care about what's going on in the physical world in terms of how things are made, who is being made by, and shipped, and those types of things as well. But check this out. Check this article out in sourcingjournal.com today. So that's about it. Those are my 5 favorite articles as it relates to Black finance, wealth, and business for today, November 2nd, 2020. Let me know what you think about any of these articles. Also, let me know what you think about the segment in general. This is something that I think we're going to continue to do, but we always like to hear your comments and feedback regarding the content and the information delivery style of these types of videos. Before you get out of here, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. On behalf of Financial Juneteenth, on behalf of Financial Juneteenth, this is Lawrence Watkins. You take care, be blessed, and have a wonderful day. All right, bye-bye. Today's video is brought to you by the Black Business School. At the Black Business School, we don't help you just climb the corporate ladder, we help you build your own as well. We provide a culturally relevant yet practical education in all things wealth building at an affordable price. So no matter if you want additional freedom in your day-to-day life, you would like to leave a legacy of generational wealth behind to your family and friends, or you just want additional security and stability going into your golden years of retirement, the Black Business School has courses and offerings for you. So head over to theblackbusinessschool.com to learn more. Take care and see you in class.